Hi folks, welcome to the series on Chief Steamer repair videos. In this video we're going to do solenoid valve, which is again fairly common on most steamers. So the solenoid valve is always going to be located at the top of the boiler on any machine. This is our solenoid valve right here. So the solenoid valve, the steam needs an exit route, and this is how it exits into your steam hose. So in doing the solenoid valve, we have the body taken totally apart right now. To do a solenoid valve, you generally don't need to do that. So the body could still be in this position. To do the solenoid valve, we don't need to remove it as if we're doing a water pump or a computer board. So the body can still be like this. I'll move it out of the way just so everything can be visible. So your solenoid valve sits on top of the boiler. Steam is made in the boiler, it needs an escape route. This is your escape route. So the solenoid valve is electronically controlled. There's a plunger in here that opens and shuts. It allows steam to flow through the steam hose into your adjuster valve and then out the port where you connect your steam hose and you have steam. Two things can happen with a solenoid valve. They can be clogged open or they can be clogged shut. So some of the things that you'll see is that if on your gauge is reading full pressure, but when you click your trigger and you're not getting any steam released, generally it's a clogged solenoid valve from sediment, which we've shown in other videos, and lack of maintenance, not draining the boiler, very hard water, a lot of things go into that. But it can clog this solenoid valve to where it won't open and it won't allow steam to escape. On the flip side, solenoid valves can also be stuck open, meaning that they won't shut. There's a piece of debris in there that won't allow the plunger to snap closed, and you'll have steam bleeding out the front when you disconnect your hose or still coming out your hose even when you're not requesting steam. So that means it's time to replace the solenoid valve. Now when you get your solenoid valve from me, there's two different styles, and we'll have to determine, we call this one the newer style. So if we put these down on the bench, this one right here is the newer style. It's more of a block design, and then there's a fitting that screws in here that screws into the fitting in the boiler, and this is more the older design with the incorporated nipple into the shaft. Now on the solenoid valves, the black relay that slides onto the shaft always needs to come off, but we want to replace them both. Sometimes the black relay will fail and electronically it won't open the plunger inside the valve. So you will get both on replacement, and you'll always need to take the relay off to replace it anyway. So the silver nut comes off. Doesn't matter which way it's facing because obviously it spins, it comes off, and here's the shaft of the solenoid valve. Inside the shaft is your plunger. So when we replace it, we want it to be like this. This is going to end up screwing into the boiler. To remove it, there's a couple of things that we need to do. So first thing we need to do is we want to destroy the factory clamp. The factory clamp is a special clamp at the factory, which I don't like. So a pair of side cutters will release it. You release it with side cutters, just slide it down the hose. We're going to discard this clamp. I'm going to send you a new one. We want to pop off the steam hose. Leave that laying out of the way. We can remove this clamp because I'm going to supply you with a new clamp. The relay needs to come off. So we're going to take the silver nut off the back of the relay. We're going to slide the relay off the back of the valve. Take note of where these wires go. These are two power wires. We have our red, our black, and our green ground. The green ground obviously is only going to go in one position because it's flat. So that's always going to go like that. Your power wires, it's not going to matter. And you can tell there's a special way the connector faces and the way the connectors are bent. So it doesn't really matter which way these go as long as they slide all the way on. So you're going to disconnect these wires, but do take note of where they go. This is going to be replaced with the new one. This wire is going to be pulled out of the way. Now it's as simple as just getting the old solenoid valve out of the boiler. Don't just replace this relay. I've had people do this before where they think this is the key component. It's not. If you replace this, you're going to end up with the exact same problem and you're going to think I sent you a defective part. Not the case. We have to replace both of these. Pair of channel locks. Grab it by the square. Get a good grip on it. You can hold the boiler. Watch your hands. We have sharp metal here. Start to twist it. Get a good grip on it. You're not going to destroy anything. This is just brass. It will clear the side of the boiler, and it should clear the computer board. Even if you have this style solenoid, which is going to go in like this, there should be enough clearance once you take this relay off to spin it out of the way of the computer board. Now, you can also manipulate the computer board bracket and just kind of bend it out of the way a little bit. There's a lot of give in that plastic bracket. There's a lot of give in the board. You're not going to break it. Don't crunch it, but you're not going to break it. So if you need a little bit more clearance, just kind of pry the computer and the bracket out of the way, and then we're going to spin. We're just going to spin the old solenoid valve out. Once we have it out, this is going to be discarded. This port might be clogged in there. You never know. Make sure this is unclogged. So if you have a little dental pick or a tiny screwdriver, there's no need to take this fitting out. This fitting generally will not clog. But if you have something that you can poke in there or some compressed air, just make sure that that's good. But generally, I don't see these clogging. I see the solenoid clogging. When we go to put it back in, whichever design that you have, the threads either need a little bit of Teflon tape or they need a little bit of pipe sealer. But don't plug the hole. I've seen people where they wrap Teflon tape around the threads and the Teflon tape folds over the hole. Guess what? That's going to block the steam. You're going to have the exact same problem. So whether it's Teflon tape or pipe sealer, a little bit around there. And then be careful with the fitting, because this is brass. You're not going to strip this, or on old machines, the solenoid screws directly into the top of the boiler, which is stainless steel. You're not going to hurt this fitting. You're not going to hurt the threads in the boiler if it screws into the top of the boiler, but this is brass. So if you cross thread this, you can hurt your brand new solenoid valve and you're going to have to replace it, because we need a good seal. So line it up real nice and do it obviously by finger tighten it first. Get your wires out of the way, make sure it clears the computer board, and then you'll feel it start to walk its way in. Make sure it's going in straight. Once it goes in straight, spin it with your hand. Now, I already know that it's supposed to be facing backwards. If you took a picture, you'll see which way a particular machine it faces. A 125 is going to be a little bit different, but the repair scenario is the same. You want to take note of which way this points and which way the nipple points. And as I start to lose control with my finger, I still know that this needs to be tightened quite a bit more. And then I'll get in there with the wrench. I feel I have one more turn to go, so I'm going to bring it back around with my wrench and give it one more turn until I know that I'm facing in the right direction. Now I know that I'm facing the right direction and that's tight enough. I can feel that it's tight enough. Now I'm good. We don't want to grab the shaft with the pliers this way because we don't want to hurt that. Our nipple is facing the right way. Now, before you put your wires back together, I know I have my green ground, so I want to put that over here, bring that over here. We will slide our brand new clamp on. I don't have a new clamp here, but if this was a new clamp, we put our clamp on first. So you put your clamp over the hose. I want to put my hose on first. I want to get my hose on first, get it nice and tight, bring it all the way up to the end of the nipple. If the hose has been stretched out too much and there's too much stretching of the end of the hose, just take either a very, very sharp utility knife or a good pair of cutting pliers and cut off about 1/8 of an inch so we have a nice tight fit that goes onto our nipple. You're going to bring your new clamp. I do not have a pair of side cutters out here. We're going to bring our new clamp up to the top of the nipple. I use a pair of side cutters and I'll squeeze the ear of the new clamp tight. That makes sure that this stays on tight. If you do not use a clamp on the hose and you go to request steam, the pressure inside the boiler can blow the hose right off and your solenoid will work, it just won't deliver steam out the adjuster valve and out the front. So that clamp needs to be tight. We don't want to cut into the hose with the clamp because we don't want to damage this steam hose. Now it's time to put our relay on. Relay is only going to go on one way. The small side can't go on first. The big side needs to go first. So our big side needs to go first, and because we have all this play, that allows me to bring our wires across. I can connect my ground, which is flat, first. Then our red and black, whatever way it fits. That's not fitting correctly, so that must mean it goes on the bottom. That goes like that. Our red goes like that. Now, if you feel any resistance, just turn it around. So I actually did that wrong, but no problem. I'm going to slide it off. I'm going to bring the wires under and behind the computer board. I'm going to slide that on. I'm going to put my nut on because we also want this to be tight because this relay is magnetic. If the relay is not on tight, it's going to make a really bad noise and you're not going to get any steam. Get it lined up so that your wires are not touching the computer board and your wires clear the inside of the boiler. That's on straight, and just with a pair of pliers, just bring your nut tight. And we're done. Now repressurize the machine. You do not get steam delivery through the solenoid valve without requesting it. So the way these machines are designed, steam will stop at this plunger. So steam on some of the cheaper, more inexpensive machines, the way they build them to save money, once the machine is pressurized, steam comes out and it goes right up to your hose. We don't do that. It's a safety thing. So the steam hose does need to be plugged in. You'll start your machine again. It will get up to pressure. You'll click your steam hose, and now your problem should be solved. If you had a bleeding off solenoid valve, that should be done now. If you had a solenoid valve that you could not get steam out of, or you had poor steam delivery because it was clogged, that should be solved. So a solenoid valve is fairly common, but also fairly cheap and easy to replace.